All right, Marc Guberti is an entrepreneur, author, and digital marketing expert. He is the host of the Breakthrough Success Podcast. Love the name, Breakthrough Success Podcast, where he regularly interviews influential entrepreneurs. He recently wrote the book, Content Marketing Secrets, which teaches people how to create, promote, and optimize their content for growth and revenue. Marc, welcome.
It's a pleasure to be on the show.
Hey, so let's dive into this real quick. When you're saying content marketing, for those people who maybe aren't familiar with the term content marketing, what are you talking about?
Content marketing is you promoting your own content to others. So it could be like a blog post, a video, podcast episode, and you're just getting the word out there to more people who are like they're targeted people from your audience who would want to learn more about what you're doing.
Gotcha. And just by the way, every now and then I might be looking like I'm typing or whatever. It's because I'm adding I'm adding content, or I'm adding information so our viewers can keep up with us. All right, so content marketing could be a blog post, could be a video, right? Like this show. It could be a book that you're promoting. It's just content that you created that you're promoting, so to attract your ideal customers.
Exactly.
Gotcha. And with today's environment, is content marketing, a big deal nowadays, or is it falling off, or is it taking off? What is your take on the trend?
Content marketing is just going to be something that continues to grow in importance because brands are now we're communicating with social media. We're telling stories through our content. We're building that trust factor by providing all this free content. So content marketing is just going to be something that keeps on continuing for a very long time. I don't see any reason it could possibly be stopped due to how important it's become in our culture.
Sure. And I agree with you. I mean, look, bottom line is content marketing, I think, is another way of saying, what is it? Storytelling, right? I mean, as humans, that is what engages us the most. When you're reading a good piece of content, and all of a sudden you start resonating with that person who wrote it, and you want to follow that person. So I agree with you. I don't think it's going to go away. It may change. It may become, we're seeing a lot of, I think, growth in the video scene. I think every platform is doing some type of video because it seems to be, I think, a really quick way to put content together. It's a little bit, it's engaging, all that other stuff. So I think it may change, but you're right. I don't think it's ever going to go away. All right, so let's say that I want to start, I want to go down the content marketing path. Is there a formula that you teach your members that you like to work with?
There are different parts to it. Now, obviously, this varies based on the business you're in, but the basic formula, it just comes down to creating content, getting as many people to see that content as possible, then being able to monetize it. So I always recommend that the first thing you want to master is creating the content, because if you can't create content, then you don't have a content brand. You have no content to market in the first place. Now, there's some people who they create really good content. They don't create content often. They'll just update their pre-existing content. But regardless of your approach, you have to get really good at creating really good content. After that, we can get it to content marketing. That's like using social media, like doing live videos. That's like tweeting. That's using Pinterest. That's using all the social networks, building relationships with influencers. So that's how you're able to do the content marketing piece. And social media marketing is very similar. It kind of fits into that thread, and that's how a lot of people also leverage the content marketing side. And then you have to monetize. So have a landing page people can go to, a free offer that gets people on your email list. Your email list is going to give you the most ROI, most engagement compared to like any other asset you can use to grow your business. So you need to get people on your email list and have a way to generate revenue. Is it through one of your training courses, a book like mine, an affiliate, you're an affiliate for someone, a service? Like there are many different ways to monetize, but you have to figure out what's going to work for you. It all comes down to creating content, promoting it, and then monetizing it.
Gotcha. Let's talk about this real quick. As a way of getting your content out there, I like to use Hootsuite. If I remember correctly, you are a Hootsuite ambassador. So talk about Hootsuite a little bit.
Hootsuite is one of the best social media tools available on the web. There are millions of people who currently use it. I use the pro version, which you can they let you do the bulk message upload. So I had in 6 clicks, I could schedule over 100 tweets because I have them pre-written in a CSV file. All you have to really do is just change the date of all the social media content within the CSV file with Command F, and then you can just keep scheduling that same sequence over and over and over again. So that's one of the main benefits of Hootsuite Pro, but it also gives you tabs and streams, which I feel like are totally underutilized. When you go on social media, you see the good stuff, but you also see trending topics. You see anything that could possibly take you away from what you're supposed to be doing. Social networks are optimized to get as many of your minutes as possible. That's what makes a successful social network like Facebook and YouTube, 2 of the top. Think about how much time people are spending on those. That's why they're really successful. Trending topics work. They want your attention. But for you to be productive, you can't fall into that. So Hootsuite, with its tabs and streams, allows you to curate what shows up in the Hootsuite, and you can communicate with people through all of your social networks and see the posts you're supposed to be communicating with instead of something about a trending topic, which can take 5 minutes of your attention, then you forget about it a week later.
Right. And I do like the ability to program or schedule the posting. If you're going to be promoting something, I think Hootsuite's a great way to do it. In Hootsuite, not only is it integrated with Twitter, but Facebook, LinkedIn. I think they even have a Pinterest integration as well. So really, to me, it's one of my favorite ways to leverage my time and my content.
Really great way to get that in while staying productive on social media as well.
Yeah. All right. So I hope I spelled that right. Hootsuite. I think it's fairly close. Anyway, man, it looks like I might have misspelled it. Sorry about that. Hootsuite. It's HOOT suite.com. Anyway, let's talk about this real quick. It's something that you said probably will shock people, and that is, you mentioned, I think, when you preload or program 100 tweets to go out. So talk about what you feel is an effective way to use Twitter, because I think most people aren't aware how to use it effectively, because it is such a different platform than, let's say, Facebook, and to me it seems like it goes by so much faster. So talk about Twitter a little bit.
And you actually hit it right on the head by saying it goes faster. Like on Instagram and Facebook, I would never even think about posting over 100 times per day, but on Twitter, I'm easily able to post over 100 times per day there because it is moving so fast. I send a tweet out at 4 p.m. If you log in at 4:02 p.m., you missed it. But since I send tweets every 5 to 10 minutes and you stay on Twitter for another 3 minutes, which is entirely possible, you're more likely to see my tweets. And as you see more of my tweets more often, you get more comfortable with me on your feed. And then some people take the initiative, click on my profile, and then they just scroll through my tweets. So the reason I send so many tweets is because, Twitter moves really, really fast. They're it's a little different for me since I'm following so many people as well, but I would get hundreds of new tweets on my feed every second. Even if I log in 10 seconds late, I'm going to miss your tweets. So that's just how fast Twitter's moving, constantly needing to get in front of your targeted audience. And the best way to do that on Twitter is to tweet over 100 times per day with that easy method. If you have to schedule all these tweets manually, it's not worth it to do that many tweets. But getting all those tweets out there, making sure they're valuable, and using the Twitter analytics to see which tweets are working the best based on the data and continuing to tweet those is going to result in a more positive experience while you getting in front of more people.
Right, right. And one of the key words that I want to reemphasize is valuable. You said, and that is really, I think, the foundation when you're doing content marketing. To go out there and say, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff is the great repellent. And you see a lot of people just do that, and it's just like, and bottom line is you got to put out value so somebody can say, hey, I like that Mark guy. I like what he's putting out there. Let me go to his profile. Oh, I like his profile. Now let me go to his website and see what this guy's all about. And that's kind of the way that the whole content marketing works. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. It is all about that value. And I feel like I think we've matured from the buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, but instead it's becoming share my stuff, share my stuff, share my stuff. So the way that I get around that is you really have to leverage permission marketing. That means make it so that you're not pushing the person to share or buy or take any type of action you want them to take, but just present it as an option. So instead of like buy my stuff or share my latest blog post, you can say, like, for the blog post, I wrote this blog post about X. I thought you might be interested. I thought your audience might be interested. Let me know if you want me to send it over. So it's not like you're saying, here's my blog post. I think your audience would like it. It's, if you think you're interested in the blog post about X, let me know and I'll send it over. Because as you get like more influential, you get more people who are just like, share my stuff, share my stuff, share my stuff. And that can get really annoying. And even from the, like, when you are the influencer and you're sending emails to your audience, don't like be excessive with asking them to do things. At the same time, you want to give them a call to action. Like, right, in emails, I will say click here, because you got to condition your audience to click on your emails. But you don't want to be pushy either. You just want to present the benefits. Why should someone care about what you're offering them? And then give them that option to continue. Don't push it out. Let them come if they want to.
Yeah, and I like that the idea of what do you call it, of asking them, hey, I have this blog post about XYZ. It might be of interest to you and your audience. Can I send it over to you? To me, that's fantastic, because you're going to get an affirmative, or let me rephrase it. You're going to get a response. You're going to get a direct response. They're going to say yes or no, and depending on, I guess, your headline or how you approach it, they'll probably say yes, send it over. And again, they may like it, they may share it, but either way, to me, it's what do you call it, a high level of engagement, because you're asking them a question which engages the mind. They have to respond yes or no, and hopefully it's yes. And then again, now you're sharing that content, and hopefully they're going to share it as well. So I like that idea, and I also like the idea of inserting a call to action. And let me post that real quick, because I think that's like you said, you have to condition your readers, your listeners, your audience to to a call to action. And it could be click here, watch my video, hey, do this. And so the what do you call it, the call to action conditioning, I think is a brilliant idea, and I hope everybody will follow that. Come up with a call to action. It doesn't have to be my stuff, buy my stuff. It could be, as Mark said, click here, maybe watch this video to find out more. All right, so besides Twitter, what are some of the other platforms that you like?
The other platforms that I like are LinkedIn and Facebook, and not for the reason people think.
Okay, right? So talk about LinkedIn first.
Okay. LinkedIn is really great for building connections. It's the place I typically leverage the permission marketing, where I'll say, I wrote this about X, as we discussed earlier. If you want to share it, I'll send it over, something like that. But I use LinkedIn to build connections. And the fact that when you connect with someone and you're communicating, those messages go in your inbox. So that's sort of a way to get to the person's email if you don't necessarily have that email in front of you. And it's really great for building connections. I've gotten several podcast guests from LinkedIn, a lot of awesome connections. You can also use LinkedIn Publisher to republish your content, to give that content an extra reach. Your connections will engage with it, and then by them engaging and sharing with it, their connections are able to see it as well, just like any other social network. But I feel like LinkedIn Publisher is definitely something that gets underutilized. I primarily use LinkedIn for building relationships.
Yeah, yeah, and I do too. I think LinkedIn is great for that. It's definitely a different environment, let's say, than Twitter is. Definitely much slower. It is more about building a relationship, and because it has this business element to it, I think it's more appropriate to do, like you said, the permission-based marketing, and really build it that way. I think to me, LinkedIn is really kind of a virtual networking place, and you're looking for people that might be interested in having a problem solved, or maybe they're interested in you solving a problem or whatever. But I do find it to be completely different, and like you said, it's a great place to build connections. All right, give me your take on Facebook.
Facebook is, I feel like when you think about Facebook, you immediately think of ads, and yes, that is a area I'm pursuing in 2018. But I feel like with ads being the primary, that is point number one people make for why you should be using Facebook. But Facebook groups are very underutilized because you can have, in many of these groups, thousands of very active users who are all interested in a similar topic. So I've joined groups about podcasting, about self-publishing your book, and about other things in my niche that I'm interested in. And in these groups, I can ask questions, receive instant answers. I can answer other people's questions and build a relationship with people who are very deep in my targeted audience. These are highly engaged people about the specific niche I'm in. So that's so powerful because not only can you answer your questions, but answer their questions, but you also see what types of questions people are asking within the groups. And there are some groups, obviously, not all of them are created equal. Some of them are you got to look in the group and see what type of engagement is happening. I'm in the podcast movement Facebook group. That is a really great Facebook group for podcasters. Anyone with a question gets answered. There's a really dynamic community in there. So you want to see a group that has that type of community. It's really good if you see one of the rules is you can't promote yourself, because I do see that problem where in some groups it's just promote. Everyone's got a big megaphone, and while everyone's screaming in all of their respective megaphones, no one's actually listening to one another. So that's, even if it has 100,000 members, that's a toxic Facebook group. So you want to make sure you're in the right ones, because it can have a really big impact on the amount of connections you're able to make. And each new relationship, that could be a podcast guest, a future affiliate, a future customer, someone who's going to share your content. I mean, you never really know where these are going to go. You don't do the Facebook group or anything with the intention of, oh, this person better be an affiliate, this person better share my content. But just do it because you want to do it, because this is your niche and you love helping people, and good things happen to people who help people.
Absolutely. And I love the idea of, like you said, joining the group because you want to help others, or you want to be helped, not promoting, not self-promotional. And I think that's the right attitude. And you're right. I belong to a couple of Facebook groups, and they're great for, again, learning stuff, getting feedback. It's a lot of fun to be able to help somebody with a problem that maybe you solved, and they're stuck with it. And again, to be able to go out there and help them solve that problem, I think is very fulfilling. And I think there's an old saying that the secret to living is giving, and I think Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups are a great way to do that. So let's talk about this, Mark. Let's say that I engaged with you either on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter, and now I'm looking to hire you. What is it that you do for your customers? Talk a little bit about that.
So it depends on what product or service you buy. I do offer many training courses. The Content Marketing Plaza being my most in-depth about all of content marketing. It goes over those things we talked about: creating content, promoting, and then monetizing that message. So that is my top course. But I do also coach clients. So if you're interested in growing your business, through digital marketing, social media, content marketing, similar things to what we've discussed. I give you the action plan. I'm not the guy who goes to your social media and like creates posts for you. That's something that my brother Michael does. But me, I'm the guy who I'll look at what you're doing and tell you how you can improve and give you some action steps. It's not like we have a conversation and then that's it and you feel good. It's something where we have the conversation and I'm going to, like, for anyone who I'm about to call, I'll do anywhere from like 15 to 30 minutes research, sometimes even more, depending on how much research I have to do for each person to figure out real insights I can give right away. It's not like 10 minutes of the call. It's like, oh, so what do you do? Like, I already know what you're doing into the call. Right. So that's also something that I do. And you can contact me if you're interested in any of that.
Yeah, I'm going to put up your website here for whatever reason. It looks like it has a little bit of delay. And so hold on one second, everybody, and we'll put up Marc's website here. Yeah, and I like the fact that you already have done some homework and you know what everybody, what your client's about or your prospects about. To me, it's kind of funny how many people that don't do any of their homework, right? They expect you to tell them everything, which is fine. I mean, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but I think it's impressive when somebody says, hey, Marc, I've gone to your website and I noticed that you do content marketing, you have published some courses, and let me, and I'd like to show you maybe how we can, increase your numbers of subscriptions or whatever, but at least it lets them know that you've done a little bit of homework. So, at least they, I think, come across a little bit more intelligent that way.
Yes, and also for like coaching and consulting, like usually, like let's say it's like $500 for a 60-hour call. You don't want 10 minutes of that call to be about, like, tell me about yourself. What are you doing? Because like I'm trying to do the math in my head right now and make it easier for myself. So let's say it's $600 per hour and you do that
right.
one consult. Well, like you just spent $100 just to tell the person what you're already doing. So that's a waste of your money. So I don't want to do that to anyone.
Sure, absolutely. And I think that right there is a great lesson for all consultants and coaches. Do some homework, be up to speed. And again, just because you've done homework, just don't assume that, what your client and you are going to be talking about as far as solving, but at least you've done some homework. You know what this person is. So you might have an idea what their problem might be, or at least you're prepared. And like, Marc's example, if I'm paying you by the hour, I certainly don't want to take 10 or 15 minutes telling you about me and what my story is. I want to get to it. I want to sit down and, hey, Marc, here's my problem. How can we solve it? Let's get it. So great insights there. All right. So let's talk about this real quick. When it comes to the, to developing courses, a lot of people get hung up on their credentials. Who am I to you've probably seen this. Who am I to write a book? Who am I to publish a course? Who's going to listen to me? How do you get around that mindset? I don't know if you ever had to deal with that when you were publishing your books and publishing your courses. Talk about that a little bit.
It's difficult for not difficult, but different for me because I just turned 20 recently. So I've been doing a lot of this as a teenager. So at the beginning, it's like, he's a teenager. What does he really know? And
right.
That's not even an exaggeration of like the mentality. But as I continue to put in the work, that opinion changed over time. But if you're just willing to continue learning and keep putting in the work, like, you're fine. Like, you shouldn't let one person, it could sometimes be like, I feel like we'll think of what one or two people said about us, like people really close to us, for instance, they'll say like you can't do this or something like that. And then we'll like think about like, that's what everyone must think about us. So right. Don't let one person who say like, you can't do this, be how you see the perception of everyone. So I would recommend like just doing it. Like, start very small. Even if it's just like a 30-minute training course, which is just for free. like you're starting, you're getting it out there. And I would recommend just keep doing those small actions, make it bigger and bigger, and you'll get more comfortable with putting yourself out there. But when it comes to like the who am I, like there was a point where like no one really knew who I was. And like I didn't have any of the books or the training courses. We're all at that point. Everyone who has a best-selling book, has $1 million training course, was at a very similar point where they didn't have anything created. So the marketplace is going to reward the ideas that get implemented. And if you keep implementing, you're eventually going to get rewarded big time.
Oh, I like that. The marketplace is going to reward the people who are.
I can't take credit for that. That's 12-week year. I can't take credit for that.
Okay, that was who?
The 12-week year was in that book, like one of the first pages. That's too good of a quote for me to take credit for.
I love it. I love it. So yeah, absolutely. I have a saying, and I don't think I took it from anybody, but I may have, because I read a lot of stuff. I listen to a lot of podcasts, but you're never going to go wrong by taking action. You'll never lose by taking action. You're going to learn. You're going to put stuff out there. I had a member who took my webinar class, right? My webinar course, and he didn't have the discipline or the patience to go through. And so his first webinar had no slides whatsoever. Didn't have anything. It was just him and a blank GoToMeeting page. That was it.
Wow.
And he had a few attendees, and he closed one of those attendees for $1,500 a month.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like, what?
That's a very happy story, a happy ending.
Yeah, and that's the exception, of course. But the lesson is that he took action. I mean, was it the perfect action? Could have been better. Yes, all that stuff. But he just took action and was rewarded, right? And interestingly enough, when we dug a little bit deeper, the person who ended up buying his $1,500 a month consulting program was somebody that had read some of his blogs and had been following him for 6 or 7 or 8 months, that had engaged a couple of times on Facebook. And so it wasn't a cold stranger. It was somebody that had connected with him again via content marketing and felt comfortable enough to, finally pull the trigger and retain him. But the bottom line lesson is, some of us get so hung up on who we are. Is my product perfect enough or good enough? People are going to make fun of it. You got to, like you said, you just got to pull the trigger. You got to take action. There are going to be some people who are always going to love what you put out, and there's always going to be a percentage of people who are going to hate what you put out. But for the most part, if it's your ideal client and they like you, they're going to like your stuff, even with all its imperfections, and just put it out there.
Exactly. And with the action, like some action, it may look like it's bad in the beginning. Like let's say like a bad investment, for instance, or something like that. Like it may feel bad in the beginning, but the fact that you're taking action, and more importantly, if you continue to take action, that's how you're going to become successful. Mistakes are part of anyone's journey, but the more action you take, you'll be able to learn more from mistakes you make and eventually achieve that definition of success that you have for yourself.
Absolutely. There's a gentleman, a dear friend of mine. His name is Dr. Joe Vitale, and Dr. Joe, if you guys have watched the movie The Secret, he's probably, I think, produced now roughly 60 books. Some of them have become runaway bestsellers. And my point being to this is that his first 3 or 4 or 5 books produced him no money, no real livable money. I think, his first 4 or 5 books were, maybe total made him whatever, $5,000 or $10,000 over a period of 3 or 4 years. So it's pocket change when you spread it out over that amount of time. But I think it might have been his 5th or 6th book that exploded and made him what he called livable money. I think he was making off that book. He was getting like, I think he had 1 month where he did like $50,000 in sales, and it put him on that path. But again, for 3 or 4 or 5 books, there was essentially nothing. And then all of a sudden, because he continued to take action, he had this explosive book, and then he had another one, then he had another one, and so it is just a matter of taking that action consistently, and you'll see some reward. And I like you said, the marketplace will reward you. And I want to say this: you have to be consistent. You can't put out a blog post today and then not do it again for 4 or 5 or 6 months. And yeah, because I think a lot of people do that. They put out a blog post and they go, well, nothing happened. This doesn't work. I'm not going to do it again. And it's just, you got to put out a lot of stuff. I mean, somebody gave me the analogy, and I've always enjoyed this, whether it's true or not, that the space shuttle expends 50% of its fuel getting that first inch off the ground. And when you think about that, that's an enormous amount of action. It's an enormous amount of momentum that it's building just to get off that 1 inch off the ground. So to me, you might have to write 20, 30, 40 blog posts. You might have to write, like Joe, 3 or 4 or 5 books before you become that overnight success that you're looking for, right? Before you start to get traction. It does take a lot of action. And I think that also as consumers, and Mark, I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, I think as consumers, we come across somebody that we might like, and we're going to see if this person is for real, meaning if they put out one blog post that we like, that's great, but what else? And I think that as a consumer, I want to follow somebody that's going to be consistently giving me good value, not a one-time hit, right?
Definitely. And when I go to a blog I haven't seen before, like one of the things I'm unconscious of doing is looking to see, well, is this someone who's updating weekly or daily? Because then I could keep coming back to this place to get more ideas. Like there are like only a handful of blogs that I routinely go back to. Those are the ones that are producing the most high value content the most often.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. I like that. Let's see. All right, let's see. I want to go back and grab your website one more time. What did I do with that? So if you guys want to connect with Mark and find out about Mark, in fact, speaking of content marketing, you can go to Mark's blog, and it is his name, marcguberti.com. And let's see, guys, I am going to pop it up here again. And what's amazing, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show, I was thinking about having you on the podcast, Money for Lunch, but I thought, you know what, I want people to see how old you are. And because, no offense, you're a very young looking guy as compared to an old guy, right? And so, and here you are, you have like, how many followers on Twitter do you have?
A little over 400,000.
400,000 followers on Twitter. And you've been on Twitter how long?
This will be my 7th year. We're almost at that 7-year point.
Okay. So, and I'm sorry, you told me you turned, what, 20 or 21?
20.
20. So you started Twitter when you were on 13.
Yeah.
So, you've been building your brand for at least 7 years at the age of 13. There's so many people out there who have multiple degrees and are still reluctant to, pull the trigger, write a book, write an article, get out there. And so I wanted to use your, your youth as an example that really just get out there and anybody can make it happen. As long as you're producing consistent value, you're going to create a following. And here you are. You've got 400,000 plus followers. In fact, I think you and I connected on Twitter, and it's I think it's it's a great testament that people may sometimes judge you by how you look. This guy's so young, or this person's so old, or whatever. But ultimately, as you said before, the marketplace will reward you based on your value. So if you're consistently putting out value, sooner or later, the fact that you're old or young or whatever doesn't matter. The marketplace doesn't care. We see this all the time. All the time we see people who, what do you call it, are came from nowhere, and all of a sudden they exploded on the scene. And when you do a little digging, you find out that, hey, they've been doing this for 7 or 10 or 15 years, and so this overnight success was really just brewing this entire time because they were consistently putting out value. All right, so let's talk about this real quick before we wrap up. When it comes to mistakes, when you work with a lot of individuals, and again, we've talked about social media, we've talked about content marketing, preparing for, I know you also do stuff on product launching and productivity, but in general, let's say when it comes to marketing a business, Mark, what do you see that a lot of people make as a regular or common mistake?
I would say they're trying to do too much. They're trying to use too many platforms. They're trying too many tactics. You first have to get the principles, because like all the tactics are based on a few principles. So you have to figure out what those principles are, like building relationships. Social media is just an avenue for building relationships. If you could build like millions of relationships at in-person events, granted that would be like a lot of traveling and different social media, then you're just using a different tactic to achieve the same principle. So make sure you're focusing on principles and doing a few things. Like social media also, like it's tempting to go on Twitter, Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, Google+, YouTube, Snapchat, like other ones that I'm not naming. Like Instagram, I probably mentioned that twice, but the point is like people go on so many social networks, but they're not really on any of them like truly. Like they're just running on all of them to say they're on all of them, but they're not really honing in on that one. So I would say that people are doing too much of too many things. It's better to do a lot of a few things than too much of too many.
Yeah, I like that. What a great piece of advice there. You're right. Just because you see maybe one of your heroes all over, maybe that individual has a team. Maybe they have resources that you don't have. And I love the idea of focusing on one and just killing it in that one area. And so if you love Twitter, kill it on Twitter before you expand. And again, Mark and I both use tools like Hootsuite to make us a little bit more, time, to leverage our time a little bit better and be able to post our stuff literally 24 hours a day. And I love this idea of doing a few things really good versus doing a lot of things really bad. I think it was Tony Robbins who says when a karate black belt becomes a black belt, they don't focus on doing 1,000 things. They focus, I think it's 6 things that they have to become proficient at in order to achieve that black belt status. 6, not 16, not 60, 6. And I think it goes back to what you're talking about. Focus on a few things. Get really good at a few things before you try and pile on too much and you're doing a bunch of half-assed stuff. Exactly. All right, Mark. Hey, I've had a lot of fun getting to know you and looking forward to bringing you back and talking more.
It was a pleasure to be on the show.
You bet. All right, guys, if you have any questions, reach out to Mark and at markguberti.com, and we'll talk to everybody later.